Welcome back to Arifureta Anime Review episode number 14. This time I'm discussing the 22nd episode of the series, Invasion of the Capital. This one pretty much finishes up adapting chapter 2 and goes to a good chunk of a little bit of chapter 3. Though in the case of chapter 3, there actually is stuff cut by this thing. Like huge chunks. They basically trim down what happens in the early portion of this chapter. Episode starts off basically with having Lily, Corey, Yu, and Tao running to the castle, going to get some help from the heroes party with basically Susaku, and then of course running along, and then poof, window breaks. Yep, the window breaks. And it turns out that the barrier is broken. Now, of course, there is stuff cut from here, like small tiny bits here. There's mention in here about, like in the book, there's mention about the labyrinth that the Divine Mountain has got. And here they cut it out. Probably because they brought it up last episode, and they probably didn't need to mention it here. My guess is when it gets done, they might mention it there. I'm not really sure. It's possible. And so they get a call, yes, a call via the shell that Mew gave him a couple of days back, where that the whole city is being invaded, the kingdom is being invaded by demons, and basically she needs some help. And of course she finds out that the guy who hurt Hajime, who she referred to as Master, is there leading them. And of course Yo easily volunteers, so is Shia. And they go off. And that's it for Lily and Kaori for the episode. You might be curious though, was there some dialogue for them cut for this particular moment? Yes. Yes there was. Of them basically reacting to this. I think that was kind of weird they cut that out. I would think they would leave that in, but no, they just cut that out. And then of course next time we see them, they're off meeting up with Tao, who's in a tower. And then she, basically, not long after she arrives, she informs what was going on. And then she gets a call from Hajime and says, "Hey, Tao, come over here and get Sensei." He's like, "Sure." And she flies off in her dragon form. And she's not seeing it until toward the end of the episode. And then you have Yo and Shia, they go battle Freed and Durkin. I should point out, though, Durkin in the whole episode is never referred by name. His name is only mentioned in the book. You're probably thinking, okay, did they cut this name from the anime? Well, his name he was mentioned in the first episode he popped up in, but does he refer to himself by name? I mean, the viewer probably knows who he is, but did the character know what his name is? No, not really. And probably Durkin is basically just very antsy about the fact that Shia, the woman who killed his woman back in the previous season of the show, I think it was Kalitza, I think her name was. Yeah, it happened toward the end of season 1. Yeah, during the episode of that from book 4 for the series. And then, of course, basically, you have a free fire big blast at the two girls. Lucky enough that you use a reflective magic to basically destroy his own small portion of his dragons. And you have you take on him for the episode for a bit, and you have Shia take on Durkin. Most of the stuff for them is mostly the episode, except they do slightly alter some content here. Like, for example, in the book, she's refers to as his fiance. In the anime, it's his betrothed, which is basically the same thing. It just about it's kind of weird they changed that. They fight for a good portion of the episode, and then there's like a blast. Then, of course, they're knocked down. Well, then, of course, she gets tied with the chain, brought down. Then, eventually, he's killed by Shia. Oh, by the way, he refers to her as a monster, and she's like, "Thank you." That's what she says in the anime. In the anime, in the book, she says, "That's a compliment." And then we see you, which takes on Freed. And mostly, but for their fighting, it's mostly there. I don't think there's much cut here, because there's not much here. And even do a spell called Revive Reversal, which has Freed opening up his old womb his old wound that he got when he went to the Grand Goo volcano 7 months back. And because he's wounded, his men buy him time for escape. Yep, that seriously happens there. And then, of course, after Shia comes back, and of course, the guy gets away. And that's last see of them of the episode. And we cut to Hajima, and oh boy, this comes from the beginning of chapter 3, and there's a lot cut here. Like, wow. Because here's what you see for this portion. Just, you have him shooting at, you have Hajima shooting at Note. And of course, creating a barrier with the cross, with the cross barriers, I believe, the cross guns. Firing at them, of course, creating a barrier. For a couple times. First time he does it was blocked by a priest, which Note does note. She does Noti, I think her name is. She does mention the guy by name, to Hajima. In the book, she doesn't. I kind of appreciate the fact they added that in because, yeah, having her say it just herself, like, oh, I mess with him. So good they added it in there. And of course, the whole thing about dead weight. The whole thing with Anko of this episode is that like almost everything related to her that was basically from chapter 3, what this portion of the episode's from, is like all completely cut. They pretty much give her barely anything to do in the episode aside from Mihoba Hajima. She gets a lot more stuff to do reaction wise. Here she just in Hajima's arms the whole episode while he's firing off his gun and of course be protected. And then Tao shows up, takes away Anko, which, by the way, in the book, basically, she requests a spanking from Hajima for this as a reward. And he says, I'll think about it, and of course she goes off. By the way, that request is never brought up in the episode. That line was cut. Yes. And then he plans to continue on with her, and that was the episode. Excuse me. I kind of felt this episode proceeded at a bit too quick a pace. I mean, do I think that they actually go back to the stuff they did the first season? No, not necessarily. Though they do keep a lot in for the first portion of the episode. They do that from chapter 2. But for 3, they cut mostly a lot of Anko stuff. Probably because basically she's not that big of a character at this point. Yeah, they also cut a line about about Tio where she rescues Anko, which basically makes the second of Hajima's girls to rescue Anko. First it was Shia protecting her. Now it's Tio's turn. Yep. But kudos to the fact that, well, I know about that because I watched the first season of the show. Yep. And here's the thing. This is only episode 9 of the season. Yep. Only episode 9. And you're probably thinking, okay, how many episodes are left? I would probably say presumably about 4 left. And I say 4 episodes left because, well, the first season lasts 13 episodes. I would not be surprised if this season also has 13 episodes as well. Yes, as far as I can tell, like, this one I don't think was confirmed was 13 episodes. I'm presuming it's 13 because that's all the first season lasts for, so we're probably going to have that. We're probably just going to have the season just cover books 5 and 6, and that's probably going to be it. Now you're probably thinking, by this episode, how much of this book have they covered? Like, here's the thing. By the end of this episode, they only get to like, supposedly down to like 128 out of a 300. Actually, no, take up the bonus stories. I have 320 pages, so they got presumably about this much left to adapt for the thing, which they could do in 4 episodes, but I'm hoping they don't rush it. I'm really hoping that. Yes. And the thing is, we've only been on book 6 now, about 3 episodes, so yeah, there's that. So yeah, so that's going to be pretty much it for the particular review. Yeah, not really much else left to say about this thing. except that, like, my biggest problem with the episode is the pacing. Like, it feels like it's a little too quick. Aside from the pacing, the only problem I had with it was the fact that Anko, like, almost everything related to her this episode was cut. Like, we get little bit of chunks here and there. It was almost like everything else related to her that was supposed to be adapted for this episode was cut. Do I think, unlike in the case of, let's say, the final pages of Chapter 3 of Book 5 be adapted for Nova? That's probably good for extension to material. But in the case of this, no. Unless, of course, they have a director's cut edition of this episode, where they actually put in stuff they cut out. Which, for the first 8 episodes, don't really need it, because they did a pretty good job with those. This one, yeah, this one probably needed a good additional 5 minutes. I'd say for the episode. I think 23 minutes probably wasn't enough what they adapted here. My personal, I guess, they should have gave it an additional 5 minutes. Make it a slightly longer episode. But who knows how it's going to be for next week. Okay, so yes, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. I have no more time doing more videos, so tomorrow I expect to see at least, as of currently, 2 comic corners, along with a review for Shaman King and the Case Study of Antos. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.